Hey everybody, it's your favorite nerd Mike Meyers doing our 2 o'clock Central Daylight Time Ask Mike Anything. The goal of this get together is primarily for those of us who are practicing for CompTIA certifications. This is because of the coronavirus. A lot of us are at home these days. You can see I'm here in my house. And so the goal here is to be able to work together, to be able to discuss CompTIA topics, particularly the exams, but we can talk about all kinds of other stuff as well. So that we can all keep moving forward through these trying times. Man, it seems like the term trying times comes up so much anymore. And speaking of trying, yesterday I was convinced I had the coronavirus and I was going to go get tested. There's finally places here in Houston you can get tested. And I actually watched a video on how they test you, and they take this huge swab and they shove it away, and I'm like, oh no, that's not going to happen. So I'm suddenly virus free. I'm not going to get that test unless I'm really, really compelled to go through that process. So until that happens, thank you, but no. So anyway, I didn't realize, first of all, I hope everybody had fun with the contest yesterday. I was kind of, ad hoc. I'm going to warn you, we will always have some kind of really nice giveaway on Fridays. That's going to just keep happening. But I reserve the right to continue from time to time to throw in extra giveaways. And I hope that, Jimmy, you got some fun with the $25 gift certificate from GameStop/ThinkGeek. You got to let us know what you got, man, because everybody's going to want to see it. If you got caffeine soap on a rope or whatever the cool stuff is that you can get with that. Anyway, listen, first of all, for those of you who are new here, I see there's a lot of old faces. It's always good to see the gang. I'm going to start calling you guys the Brain Trust or something like that. But for those of you who are new, just because you're kind enough to log in, if you look underneath here, we are selling our practice questions and our simulations for 50% off. Just for you being kind enough to show up, just use the code there below. I think it's MMLive406. I can't actually see it myself. But my buddy Scott Jernigan, who's moderating on the chat, can help us out there, and he'll let you know if I am making a liar out of myself, as I often can. Paul Murphy, where do they put the swab? I want to party with you, cowboy. Okay, man, there's some new names. There's Pise and Eric Tolowit, Andrew Hutz, Joe Sosa, Gino. Hey, Gino. Hey, Schumann. No, I better not. I can cuss really well in about 40 different languages. There's my buddy Ernie. Hell, Mike? I am hell sometimes. It's true. It's absolutely true. Anyway, so there were a bunch of questions that I just totally missed yesterday. When, with the contest and all, we kind of ran out of time. So I want to take a few minutes and kind of go over some of these. Let me get these up so I know... What questions do we have? What scripting do I need to know for the A+ 1002? Not a lot. My experience with the questions thus far are, being able to recognize the different types of scripting languages, for example, is really important. Being able to recognize that, what's a BAT file versus a PY file versus a JS, JavaScript, Python, old school batch files, PowerShell, that kind of a thing. The objectives really go into like doing do loops and all this stuff. I don't feel that CompTIA is testing on that level of programming logic, but it is objectives, and I think this is something they're going to keep building on and adding to. I would recommend that you are comfortable doing hello world in these different languages. And most of it's pretty much built into Windows these days. And if it's not built into Windows, it's built into Linux. So you can play with these without like any great cost or anything like that. Oh, did the cat show up again? That is my friend Margot. And Margot kind of owns the joint. So don't sass her or she'll casually unplug something. So be careful there. Margot's a tough customer. But anyway, the scripting stuff is actually pretty easy going. And I think you should understand scripting anyway as a tech. And we hit scripting pretty hard in my training materials. but I don't feel that the test pushes it very hard at all. Okay, what were the other questions we ran into that I missed? Do I need to know TCP UDP port numbers for the A+ 1002? It's really more on the 1001 side where they're going to hit you on the port numbers. But yeah, you got to know. It's not just knowing port numbers. It's like knowing what the. Here, actually, Scott or Dave or one of the guys were kind enough to bring that up for me. Okay. So this is on the one. This is Dave Rush. Thanks, Dave, for pulling this up, by the way. On the 1001, Objective 2.1, compare and contrast TCP and UDP ports, protocols, and their purposes. Notice it didn't say ports. It said ports, protocols, and purposes. How's that for a little bit of alliteration, huh? But anyway, I mean, not only does it say 21 is FTP, but you should really understand FTP. You should install an FTP client and run it and understand how it works. I would make sure you understood active versus passive FTP. I don't know if it's on the exam. I don't care if it's on the exam. This is FTP. Basic stuff anybody should know. You know, what else do we have? 22 SSH, of course, 23 Telnet, 25 SMTP. I mean, you should be playing with these protocols in one way or another. In my videos, we do tons of that stuff. And in the books, we certainly go through lots of description. If you go through the ones that are listed, I don't think that A+ hits them very hard, not like it does in Net Plus, and not like it just assumes you know in Security Plus, but you should know this stuff. It's what we do, you know? It's like, it's important. Okay. All right, so what else we got here? All right, so the other big question I had yesterday, and I really wasn't ready to answer it because it needs graphic support, is grandfather, father, son backup schemes. So let's go ahead and go through that real quick and make sure we understand what that actually means. So lots of people today like to say that tape backups are over. Tape backups are very, very popular for people who really need big backup. Yeah, at your house and at the smaller enterprise level, yeah, we're all backing up to the cloud or we're backing up to individual drives, that kind of stuff. I'm not going to fight that. But anybody who tells you that tape is dead is a fool. It is an extremely vibrant and multi-billion-dollar industry even today. Hey, Elvis Navarro, nice to meet you too. Olson 1337, nice to meet you too. Cats and Keyboards, yep, that's me. Okay, anyway, so what I got a picture of here is probably the most popular type of tape backup out there called linear tape open or LTO tapes. These tapes can handle terabytes, many terabytes. In fact, the more recent versions that are coming out in 2019, 2020 are holding 60 plus terabytes per tape. So they're a very attractive option for us. So as we go through these, so when you think about these LTOs, you visualize that they're usually in some kind of tape reader, like the one you see there. That's great, but in the real world, what you're seeing is more like this. So these are called carousels generically, and it's a completely automated process that has, you know, hundreds of thousands of tapes in there, and then these tapes. Is the audio low? I'm going to turn it up just a smidge. All right, there, I've turned it up just a little tiny bit. Checking my microphone. Okay. All right, anyway, let's get back to this. So, cool. All right, so I've got way too many things going on my screen at one time. All right, so these carousels are super highly automated. About the only thing humans do is they come in and they put more tapes in. In fact, a lot of these carousels even have automated labeling functions and all kinds of stuff like that. Okay, so the challenge you have with these tapes is that, number one, tapes are expensive. These things are, you know, close to about $100 each, depending on what your capacity you're talking about. So we want to be able to reuse these tapes as needed as much as possible. But on the same token, we want to ensure that we have complete backups when needed. Get the idea? So we need complete backups, obviously, but tapes are expensive and we want to use them as efficiently as we can. So the answer is we come up with some kind of what we call a backup rotation scheme. The goal is that we reuse tapes when possible, and then when we can't reuse tapes, there's a good reason for it, archiving, that kind of a thing. Now there's a ton of rotation schemes out there. There's first in, first out. There's this god-awful thing called Tower of Hanoi. I don't know if any of you guys have any programming experience, but if you're going for your computer science degree, it's a recursive algorithm that it actually works beautifully well to use tapes, but I will not cover it in here. It is not on any CompTIA exam, and there's a wonderful Wikipedia article if you're actually interested in looking at the Tower of Hanoi backup scheme. So what we're going to do instead, though, is probably the most popular one, which is called grandfather, father, and son, which I'm just going to call GFS here, okay? All right, so if you're looking at grandfather, father, son, you basically have three backup cycles. First of all, you have the son. The son is a daily backup, and sometimes it's done at the beginning of the day, sometimes it's done at the end of the day. Everybody's different, and it's usually an incremental backup. I'm nervous. I'm worried that a lot of you guys don't know the difference between incremental versus full versus differential backup. So I went ahead and we're going to just review that. So for those of you who've got this nailed, go to sleep for 3 minutes while I cover it. But for those of you who are not familiar, we're going to hit that here in just a second. Okay. So anyway, all right. So the son is a daily backup, which is usually incremental. It could be differential. The father is usually a weekly backup, which is a full backup. And then you'll have a grandfather, which is often a monthly backup, and that's going to be a full backup, and that's going to be archival. It means that you make this backup, you take it off site, and you keep it for 7 years or whatever the laws that are important to you come into play. Now, grandfather, father, son, usually you look at these three backup cycles, but you can add to that. You can have like a great-grandfather where every quarter you back up. You can have a great-great-grandfather where you back up every single year. The thing you got to remember with grandfather, father, son is that there's no law. You don't have to do daily. Maybe you do it every hour for the son. Then you do a full backup, 4 times a day. There is no locked-in increment. Do you understand what I'm saying here? It's more of how you're handling these guys. So there's a lot of flexibility in there. Okay, so continuing on here. So let's take a look. So I've got a calendar up here. So the sun is going to be this orangey purple. Yes, I'm picking all the default PowerPoint colors here. Don't tease me too hard. Father's going to be blue and grandfather's going to be green. So we go through and we start doing our daily backups. So these are going to be sun backups. And so at the end of the week, and this is what we decide here, then we go ahead and then we'll do a father backup. Get the idea? So the orange ones are usually going to be an incremental. Then the father backup is usually a full backup across the board. And then we just keep going through that process. And then we get through the entire month. Now at the end of the month, we're then going to do some type of grandfather backup, which is going to be a full backup. Now, it's not different from a father backup, other than the grandfather backup is treated as a archival backup, and that thing is shipped off-site, and we leave it for whatever amount of time that we need. Now, what's important here is that both the son and the father backups we can take those tapes after we've done once we've done the father, we can take the sons, erase them, and recycle them back into the system. Once we've done a grandfather, we can take the fathers, erase them, and recycle them back in the system. So both the son and father backups can be reused over and over and over again with the same tapes. The grandfathers, because they're archival, they're going to get shipped off site and stay there for a long, long time. Okay, so now that we have an understanding of grandfather, father, son, I want to take a moment and make sure we understand what are we talking about when we're talking about the different types of backups. The ones I want to make sure you guys know about are, number one, hang on, it's actually, it's all about the archive bit. Anybody who's ever gone to a command prompt and used the attrib function knows what an archive bit is. Now, if you don't, I've got a command prompt. Let's take a quick peek. So we take a look at this command prompt, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the command attrib, A-T-T-R-I-B, just hit enter. When you type attrib by itself, it just shows you the attributes that are currently shown up. So this is the Mike folder on my Windows 10 system. I hope there's nothing scary in here. No, I think we're good. Great. Now, what I want you to do is look very, very carefully here. Do you see those A bits? Those are the archive bits. These others are like system and hidden and stuff like that. But the one I'm interested in right now is an archive bit. An archive bit is very simple. Anytime that you create or modify a file, the archive bit is turned on. That is really important because if that means a file has been changed or if a new file has been added, these are new things that a backup might be interested in. Does that make sense to you? So the archive bits have been around now for 40 years, and they're still the best darn way to be able to tell how you want to do backups. Because if something's new or if something's changed, you might want to back it up. If something does not have an archive bit turned on, you probably already have a previous backup that has that, so why bother? Got the idea? Okay, great. So let's go ahead and dive back in here. All right, so the big types of backups I want you to know about is, first of all, a copy. So when you're just doing a regular copy, I mean copy star.star, holding down the control key, you're copying files to a backup source and you just ignore the archive bit. It's not going to, it doesn't care whether the archive bit is set or not set, it's just going to put it on the backup source. So most of the time when you're copying to a thumb drive or something like that, this is what you're doing. The next one is a full backup. In a full backup, it copies files to the backup source, but it turns off the archive bit. When you do a full backup, that means I don't care what it is. Now when I say full, that doesn't necessarily mean your entire C drive. You can set up your backup any way you want. So when I say full, it means everything that you're interested in. You might have a full backup of just your video production files, which is on your D drive slash video slash primary files. You know what I mean? Okay? And the rest of the is being ignored. But for that backup, it's going to do a full backup of whatever it is, and it's going to turn off the archive bit. Remember, if an archive bit is turned off, that probably tells you that somebody has a backup copy. Get the idea? All right. All right, so anyway, then we have an incremental. Now, you got to pay attention here, folks. An incremental backup copies files with the archive bit set. Got that? If the archive bit is not set, it's not going to copy it. So it'll copy with the archive bit set to the backup source and then turns off the archive bit. A differential copies files with the archive bit to the backup source, but then it ignores the archive bit. It doesn't mess with it. There is no particular benefit of incremental over a differential backup. With an incremental backup, you tend to have lots of little backups, like each backup for each day is going to be like a separate tape. Whereas with a differential backup, you're going to have your full backup, and then you use the same tape over and over again as it gets a bigger and bigger backup to it. Get the idea? Now be careful, when I say a tape, that doesn't really necessarily mean a physical tape. For example, if you don't have a really big backup, you could put 4 or 5 incremental backups on one physical tape. Get the idea? If you have a lot, then you might need 6 tapes. That's where those carousels get real handy, because you're not sitting around waiting for one tape to fill up. Please replace tape with new blank tape. Get the idea? All right. Just make sure we're clear on that. Okay, so let's go through this process. So in this particular case, we're going to do a full backup on Sunday. Okay, so it's really the previous week's backup. Now, what's going to happen with an incremental is that we're going to take all of the changes that have happened on Monday, all of the changes that have happened on Tuesday, all the changes that happened on Wednesday, all the changes that happened on Thursday, all the changes that have happened on Friday. So the important thing you have to remember is that each backup requires a separate tape with the caveat that I previously mentioned. With a differential, we're going to have a backup, and then all of the changes through Monday, now all of the changes through Monday and Tuesday, now all of the changes through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, now all of the changes through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, now all the changes through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So each backup requires the same tape. One more time. I know I say tape here, and that's usually how it works out, but if the backups are small, you can increment on one single physical tape. If your backups are huge, then you can do incrementals across multiple tapes. Same thing with differential. Get the idea? So in a perfect world, and here's where CompTIA comes into play, if you're doing an incremental backup and something dies on, say, Thursday, let's look at that one more time. So if something dies here on Thursday, then you're going to need your original full backup plus 1, 2, 3, 4 backups, 4 incremental backups to be able to restore. Okay? Oh, that was differential. Sorry. That was differential. Let's go back. So on an incremental, if everything dies on Thursday, we're going to need our full plus 1, 2, 3, 4 to restore. If it's differential, this is actually, it's 5 backups, but it could be the same physical tape. In that case, you're only going to need 2 tapes. So people look at me and they go, well, Mike, differential sounds so much better. I'm going to have only 2 tapes that I'm going to need to restore my systems. Well, maybe. Because you got to remember, differential is a cumulative backup, and it can become massive over time. Whereas incremental tends to be, assuming people hit the same kind of files, they tend to be smaller, around about the same size every time as well. Okay? Okay. So I hope that answers the question on grandfather, father, son, and I hope I wasn't too obnoxious throwing in a quick review on incremental versus differential, because I think it's important. All right, so those are the questions I had. I did have one other question on the phone. Let me pull this up. Give me 1 second. Let me find. This was a viewer who had a very interesting question about studying for the A+. All right, let me get this out. So I'm not naming any names here. So this is a person who's currently working. They're a desktop support tech. They're probably got a AA based on some questions. First, why do we retake the A+ every 4 years? Well, you don't. First of all, you don't have to. CompTIA recommends that you retake it every 3 years. CompTIA updates it every 3 years. But my attitude is you take the A+ once, because you're moving forward in life, and you're going ahead, and you should get on YouTube and check out Mike Meyers' 10 Commandments if you ever get a chance. But one of the 10 Commandments means is that you got to keep growing, and unless your job requires it, you usually move past A+. So you're moving into Net Plus, Security Plus. You start looking at Cisco. You start looking at Microsoft. You start looking at Certified Wireless Network Professional. There's a lot of different ways to go there. And the A+ begins to fade out in importance. So whether you retake it or not, I know CompTIA would love for you to retake it every 3 years, but the reality is that unless you're in the business where it makes sense, I wouldn't retake it. But again, now if your job requires that, and if that's what you're doing for a living, well then of course you'll go ahead and retake it. Also keep in mind that CompTIA doesn't necessarily require you to retake the exam. They'll take continuing education credits. There's a broad cross-section of out there. Go to www.comptia.org, and they'll walk you through all the different types of continuing education, CEUs, that you don't really have to keep retaking the exam. I retake the exam a lot. I have heard in the past, once you pass the test, you don't have to get it again. Yeah, that's very old information there. CompTIA did push the whole lifetime certification. I think that died about 5 or 6 years ago. CompTIA had to get in line with some industry standards, and basically they're like saying that's not true. IT technology changes too much too fast, and you cannot have a lifetime certification. And what's interesting is almost nobody's ever done that. I mean, you go back to all the other certs, they always have refresh, or they'll date the certification. So CompTIA was just getting on board with everybody else. How come the prices are going up? Because CompTIA can. I don't have any better answer than that, man. CompTIA, asking people who are starting out in their IT careers to spend $400 for an A+ is, in my opinion, unrealistic. Even with the discounts, it's spendy. I will not be an apologetica for CompTIA on that one. Second, I'm going to take the A+ certification. Is the hardware side of things do I need to study the software also? Yeah. What you're going to have to do here is you need to take a look at the objectives that CompTIA puts out. Now, I put the objectives in all my books, but you really, to call the 1001 hardware and 1002 software is inaccurate, and you can't do that. Yes, many years ago it was kind of a hardware operating system sort of thing, but now it's more of the 1001 is identification, recognition, understanding functionality, whereas 1002 is more of a fix this scenario, here's the type of problem, do this form of configuration. So the old hardware, software, hardware operating system attitude really doesn't work anymore. And you can just get on www.comptia.org, pull down the objectives for the current A+ exams, and you can see that for yourself. Or if you're getting ready to take the exam, I could recommend some really good books. Okay. Little bit about myself. I'm disabled. It's hard for me to pass exams. You got some it looks like you did get extra time to take the exam. It's funny. I am certainly not an expert on disabilities, but just because of the nature of me being in this business, I've run into hundreds of learners with cerebral palsy, and they certainly have challenges. They have things like, if you need readers, so about extra time, that's great. But they have all kinds of accommodations, readers, test question selectors for you, all kinds of stuff. And I'm going to send you an email back, and we're going to talk on the phone together, and I'll give you a little bit more insight to help you out there. So, yeah. I know lots of folks with cerebral palsy who are successful A+ techs, and I'll be more than glad to help you as well. Not a problem. All right. Wow, it took me half of today's thing just to catch up on questions from yesterday. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So I'm back on the scroll here. Everybody saying hi. Typing A. Hello. No offense, but it's your laptop. Oh, yeah, it's his laptop. I turned up the gain a little bit. I'm already starting to pop a little. Yeah, Scott, my home is full of, we still have crews working on the sewer lines outside, but they're told to be very quiet between 2 and 3 o'clock. And there's a couple of gals out there too, so that's probably what you were hearing. Okay. Any tips on how to retain the huge piece of info related to IT certs? Yeah, that's an easy one. Just do it for a living. I never really think that it's a huge amount of information. Okay, I know it's a huge amount of information, but this is my passion and love. I'm always doing this. I don't not study for A plus, Net plus, Security plus. I'm always playing with this. I'm messing with a port number. I'm installing a driver. I'm adding a RAM. I'm just always playing. And when it becomes your passion and joy, then it's not memorization. You're just doing what you love every dang day of the week, you know? So in my study materials, we use lots of tables and things like that to help for memorization. You know, I can quote probably 300 of the well-known TCP IP ports off the top of my head, not because I've sat there and memorized them, it's just because I do it and love it, and it's fantastic, you know. David McLean, hey Mike, so I got your CompTIA courses. Haven't done the exam yet, but I got a job interview for, what advice can you give me? David McLean, first of all, good for you. As I often preach, I hate it when people just go in and they think that they get certifications to get a job. Just go get a job, okay? People understand what entry level means, and there are lots and lots of companies out there who will do a really good job in terms of helping you. In fact, a lot of them will pay for your A+, if you just get out there and get it. Anyway, so what we're going to be talking about now is what advice can you give me? Number one, don't lie. The most powerful thing a technician can say is, I don't know, but I know how to find the answer. When I give technical interviews for new hires, I will keep asking you questions until I melt you. I'm not trying to show off. I want to see how you're going to handle a situation where you don't know. Because if you try to technobabble me, you're just not going to get a job. It's just not going to happen. So being honest and not being afraid to say, I don't know, but I can get you the answer is a very powerful thing. Nobody knows. Heck, I don't know all the answers. So that'd be the first thing. The other thing is maintaining eye contact. Then just maintain eye contact. Ask questions about the company and what they do. What are your all's goals? How do you see me fitting in? What are your advancement opportunities? What type of systems are you? It's IT help desk, so they got some kind of knowledge where. Ask them what it is and figure it out. People love talking about themselves. The greatest success you can have in any form of conversation, and that includes interviewing, is when you get to shut up. The more you talk, the more you lose. So being able to engage and control the conversation, and that interviewer is going to walk out like, oh, now that, I got to tell you, that Dave McLean, he is one little firecracker, and basically all they did was talk about themselves the entire time. So that would be the big thing more than anything else. And show up on time. Why is this suddenly a thing where people are like, well, don't feel like showing up? It's like, you're fired. So anyway, I hope that helps, David. Audrey O'Shea. Guys, we have a bit of a superstar among us today. Miss Audrey O'Shea from upstate New York. Actually a competitor of mine who writes some very good books. Audrey, it's wonderful to see you here. Please don't be afraid, Audrey, to jump in textual-wise if you have some information that you want to share with these guys. Audrey is a crackerjack technician, a superb instructor, and a very dear old friend of mine. Audrey, it's so great to see you, man. Hey, Audrey, did we tell you that we had Professor Messer last week? Yeah, we did. It was cool. Steve G. Hey, Mike. Steve from Canada here. Hello, everybody. Oh, hey, man. Steve G. Were you here yesterday? I thought you were. Yeah. Did anybody go watch Letterkenny yet? Letterkenny. Pitter patter. That's a big Texas 10-4. You will understand these things if you watch Letterkenny. There's Audrey helping. Thank you, babe. Eric Parizal. Hey, how's it going, man? Yeah, Giles Sosa, don't get me in trouble with your girlfriend, dude. Brandon Bowman's here. Hey. Is Malwarebytes a good tool to use? Dave, where were you on Monday, man? We had an amazing conversation about anti-malware, and we were talking about you because you weren't here. Yes, Malwarebytes is a great tool. Tape carousels really are cool to watch. We were actually up, Fox Sports has a big facility here north of Houston, and like you go to a football game and you'll see that van with the big antenna thing sticking up. So that shoots up to a satellite that drops down. If you're watching Fox, it drops down here into Houston, Texas. And it's actually fascinating because they have like some massive facility, probably have 30 or 40 directors where for each game, and the guys pumping in the different commercials or whatever that might be. And they have the biggest tape carousel I've ever seen. They're actually required by law to keep a copy of everything they've ever produced. Everything. And the tape backup guys there are the gods of the place. And it's just massive, massive setup. Very impressive. Wait, SQL backups? Did I say that? Sorry, that would not make sense. There you go, TS. Terrence Tech, can you do a presentation like this on RAID? Sure. You know what, Terrence? Tomorrow is RAID day. In fact, I dropped the ball. Somebody, I think it was earlier this week, had a RAID question, and like I tell the IRS every year, I forgot. I am really sorry about that. I will fix you and this gentleman at the same time. Scott Jernigan, you're hearing Mike Meyers say it. Tomorrow is RAID, and we're going to do everything from RAID 0 to RAID 6. How's that sound?
It's for you, Mike.
And
it's for you, Mike.
Sorry, that was my phone. So yes, Terrence, tomorrow will be RAID day. Gino, we have not. I don't think these Q&As are going to qualify, mainly because the basics, it's an AMA as opposed to specific topics. I put in a couple of cursory calls. CompTIA is a little I'll push a couple more times, but don't hold your breath. Mathana Ali, I got it. An office net, whoa, God, so many, I'm so sorry, guys. An office network consists of one 2-port router connected to a 12-port switch. A 4-port hub connects to the switch. Okay. On this particular network, which of the following is the number of the collision domain that exists? The answer is 14. Oh, it is 14. That's a stupid question. I really hope, first of all, I really hope this is not a legitimate CompTIA question. But you got to remember, they're not talking about broadcast domains, Mathana. They're talking about collision domains. And so what got you is that 12-port switch. And depending on the number of devices that are connecting to it, each connection on the switch, every single connection is its own collision domain. Whereas anything that connects to the hub, that's all going to be part of one collision domain. Man, I really hope. I mean, because hubs don't really exist anymore, so we really talk about broadcast domains. I don't like that. Nathan Vaughn, Mike, what's your beef with VI? Because it's a piece of crap. It's garbage. I wish Michael Smyer was on right now. Michael Smyer works for me. He's our resident genius guy, and he can make VI dance, and it irritates the hell out of me. Yeah, there's just so many easier editors, like Emacs, which I know Scott Jernigan is a huge fan of. Hello, Mike. Hope you're well. What UTM or IPS IDS do you use? Usually whatever comes built into the router that I'm using. I don't have a particular higher end. I don't do tons of enterprise work, and I need more experience there than what I have. Keep in mind, my goal is always to be the basic trainer, so I don't have any one particular solution. Michael Smyer would probably be the better source. We have like Ubiquity comes with some pretty good UTM stuff, but it's all built in. So to me, it's just kind of like fancy firewall. The AT&T router that I have actually gigabit Ethernet connection. I don't have cable. I don't have DSL. I have a native gigabit Ethernet ISP connection. It's what's nice for living in the inner city. But the AT&T router that just came from AT&T is so robust that not only it works beautifully. I have had to do very little in terms of tweaking on it, and mainly most of the tweaking I did was just from the for the wireless more than anything else. But it's going to be pretty good. Laura Bryson. Who the heck is Laura Bryson? Yeah, I have a feeling, guys. Keep that name in mind. You'll be hearing about Ms. Bryson more and more. Scott Shook. Any advice on subnetting prep for A+? Practice, practice, practice. Take any subnetting question you have. So you're taking a WAC 24 and you're going to knock it to a WAC 26 because all the subnetting questions always ask the same thing. If I subnet from here down to a WAC 26, a WAC 27, or whatever, how many hosts will I have in each subnet, and how many subnets will I have? That's really the only questions they ask. They may paint some goo around it, but whenever you're doing subnetting, it's always the same thing, right? And just keep practicing. TS, Mike, I want to create a domain for my home network. I don't have the $500 for Win server. CentOS server, do I have a recommendation? Honestly, for just whipping up a domain, literally any Linux box can do everything you want. Any Linux box you want can act as a pretty good domain controller. Now, it's a WinNT domain controller. It's not going to be a full-blown Active Directory, but it'll do fine. You can have the single login. It works great, and it's just part of Samba. And it's actually not that hard to use. I'd recommend check out Samba. It works out really, really well. And it comes with pretty much, if it isn't part of your Linux distro, then just apt-get it and you're in good shape. CentOS is fine. I've been working with Samba for so long that I don't even really think about that being, do I have to get this or that distro? I just get Linux, and it works, and I'm happy. So I'm curious why you want to do that. Are you just looking for single sign-on? That'd be about the only reason I would think that I would want to put that in there. Maybe have some control on some of the security stuff. I don't know. Whatever. Or maybe you're just having fun. Remember, one of the most important things to learn something is CIC, because it's cool. Dondo Finky in South Africa. I just had the most wonderful, Dondo Finky, if you're still there, I just drank the most delicious South African wine, a Pinotage, and it was delightful. And I want to come down to South Africa and visit you guys, and you and I can drive around and sample some of the wonderful South African wines together. Ask you, do you boot a failed home office router showing network connected and, oh dear, okay. Just want to ask you, how do you boot a failed home office router showing network connected and LAN interface tried to reset on default factory setting and nothing comes on? Well, I mean, resetting to factory defaults is certainly going to be the way to go. What I would recommend is going through the process of making sure that you successfully actually set it back to factory settings. And then once it's back at factory settings, do something simple. Do a wired connection on the LAN side. Does it do DHCP by default? I don't know which router you're talking about. Most home routers will be DHCP servers on the LAN side by definition. So you plug a laptop, you plug something in, you're probably popping a 192.168 something. Well, then you're working, right? That would take more more questions before I could provide you an answer. Scott Jernigan. Oh my God. Scott Jernigan, you can set up a domain controller on a Raspberry Pi. Guys, be careful. Scott Jernigan is entering the Dave Rush zone. Dave Rush of my office loves Raspberry Pis. And I like Raspberry Pis too. But Dave really loves Raspberry Pis. That guy has got, I don't even want to guess how many pies he has in his house. And he's a big fan. And first of all, Scott Jernigan is absolutely right. Raspberry Pis do have the ability, but I think it's just Samba, which you could do with anything. Martin Sandoval. Hey, Mike, thank you so much for your Net Plus and Security Plus material. Helped me tremendously. Martin, you're very, very welcome. And my mortgage thanks you as well. Do you think the Astros win was legitimate? Sorry, Miles. I'm going to have to mute you, brother. I don't know. Look, baseball has always had shot callers. I mean, this goes back to the 1910s. This has always been a question mark. I'm not going to get involved with that one. Oh, Martin, you actually retracted something there. Sorry, brother. Oh, no, it was Miles Roman who asked me about the Astros. Why do you think I like the Astros, man? Come on. With low-end machines, is there a way to make them feel more responsive? Yeah, don't ask them to do as much. I mean, this is the biggest problem. I've got a friend of mine, and she's got a nice mid-range Android phone. Okay? Nothing wrong with it. But she just installs games and communications and the poor thing, it's, you know, there's only so many gophers in that phone, man, you know, and after a while, it can be a problem. But this goes with routers, Raspberry Pis, any device you have. The smaller the device is, reduce the number of functions that device is supposed to do, and it will respond well. So, I mean, we'd have to probably talk about it exactly what device you're talking about, what are you doing about that. And Audrey O'Shea, Mike, I could never compete with you. You're darn right you can't compete with me because I'm Mike Meyers, Alpha Geek. The following demonstration is the opinion of Mike Meyers and does not necessarily reflect Total Seminars or its affiliates. What course materials do you recommend for Linux Plus? I got nothing. I got to be honest with you. Holy smoke, Moses Park? Moses Park, like Moses from the Valley Park? Moises? Or is this a different Moses? I'm going to get in trouble. All right. Yeah, Paul, it's millennials. Yeah, be careful here, because next thing they're going to say, right, is, okay, boomer. Any suggestions for JavaScript classes? Ernie, Java themselves have some wonderful tutorials built into them. I would recommend just going over to the Java site. You're going to be downloading the Java development tool anyway to play with Java. And they have tutorials right there on the homepage. Wonderful stuff. And, they're well updated and great stuff. Okay, yes. Raid day is today Wednesday? Man, that's always the terrifying part. Here comes a whole bunch of more questions. Yes, raid day is Thursday. Yes, we'll do raid 10 and 0+1 and all that goo. Has a security certification pathway day taken place yet? Homer 1075. Not that I know of. Michael Smyer, he's using VI right now. Michael Smyer is using VI to, I can't see. Michael's really good at VI. We'll just leave it at that. Much better than me. And Scott Jernigan really does love Emacs. Mathan Ali, thanks, Mike, to answer my question. What do you think? Have an idea of Microsoft? I'm staying away from all of the Microsoft stuff right now. Mathana, the reason is we're going through this cert apocalypse. I know it doesn't roll off the tongue, does it? And so me and the Brain Trust guys are all getting together, and we're taken a good hard look. So we're probably not going to be ready to talk about Microsoft certifications in any kind of detail. Maybe next week. We'll try. It's amazing that we're all in isolation right now, and my inbox has never been bigger. It's insane. Gino, I would kill to have Richard Stallman. Is he still alive? I don't think he is. I'm not sure. God, I get in trouble with that stuff. Okay. Jao Sosa, are you in Portugal? It's not easy to replace a cable modem. It's very hard to get your hands on a DOSIS router here, and I doubt even with the MAC address cloning works. Yeah, I got to tell you, here in the States, anybody who still has their original router, especially for DOSIS or DSL, is silly. Because I have this native Ethernet, I'm nervous to change anything from AT&T, and this router is so robust and such an outrageously high bandwidth, I don't think I could actually buy anything that's better. I really like it a lot. Really impressed. But yeah, for most people, if you have DOSIS, cable modem, you should stop paying that $5 a month. And for 30, 40 bucks, you can get yourself a perfectly functional router and stop getting robbed $60 a year for modem rental. Vimal ad, I love subnetting. Vimal, that's the first time I've ever seen anybody say that in 30 plus years of working as a technician, that you love subnetting. God bless you. I do not want to party with you. Yes, Nathan, VI is guaranteed to be an honest and a ching, 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 ching. Yes, I understand these cult things that people say, but I have a thumb drive that I keep on me at all times. And my thumb drive includes things like nice, easy to use editors that I can use on any Linux system because I can just plug it in and use it. Hey guys, I got to tell you something about Scott Jernigan. Scott's passion of technology is different than, say, me and Michael Smyers or even Dave Rush's. Scott is the artistic aspect of Total Seminars, the creative, literate part of Total Seminars, and Scott's never really dove into Linux that I'm aware of. And Scott, if I'm being wrong, I apologize. But for Scott to dive in and actually play with VI and to play with Emacs and be able to talk about VI versus Vim, I got to applaud you, brother. I mean, good for you. It's a heck of a path, and you're doing it. You're doing it, man. Is the TCP/IP protocol stack on the A+ exam? Yes, it is. What part of the protocol stack? Is it going to ask you to understand the different types of PDUs? Yeah. Is it going to understand the difference between TCP versus UDP versus ICMP versus IGMP? Yes. Is it going to expect you about IPv4 and IPv4 addressing and to be able to recognize different types of addresses? Yes. So the answer to your question is yeah, it's on there. Brandon Bauman, DD-WRT your router. Please everyone ignore Brandon. He's being a smart aleck. DD-WRT 10 years ago was a cool tool to me. Is anybody even updating it anymore? I haven't looked at it in so long. TS. Mike, could you explain why it's a bad idea for a home network to have a smart switch in different rooms plugged into your home router? I know about loops, but in a pre-wired home, other solution? Why would it be a bad idea to have a smart switch? I mean, first of all, if you have a smart switch built in, then you have bridge looping already prevented, right? Assuming you have it turned on in the switch. So that would be good. You can team up connections. You know, if you got a gigabit switch, you got a file server with 2 NICs in it, you can team them up. I'm not sure that I would agree with you that it's a bad idea. I certainly have one here at Shea Myers. I've got a nice Linksys 24-port gigabit switch here. Works great. So I guess I'd have to understand a little bit deeper why you would feel that way. Scott, can an IDS IPS be set up as a PI? Yeah. Look, a PI is a Linux system, so any GNU licensed product can pretty much run on a Pi. The question is Pis are, it's not like you're running a big Intel processor on that thing, and it could only be asked to do so much. So that would be one thing. Ernie Casillas, how do I speed up my internet? Spend more money. Okay, I am not going to get involved with baseball here. Andrew Moloney, Mike, just wanted to say your Netbook post on Udemy was the best explanation I've ever seen. Thanks, keep up the good work. Thank you, Andrew. I really, just so you guys know, the whole reason I got into this stuff is because all the training materials that I had to learn from stunk. And I write books and I do videos, and I constantly think about this. How would I want to learn this stuff if I was just starting out? That's literally the mantra that goes through my head over and over again. Am I teaching to the people who are learning in the way that I would want to learn? So that is the thing. Thank you. I knew I shouldn't have said that about Stallman being alive or dead. I get in trouble. We've lost some great ones over the last couple of years, so that's why I guess I got that in my head. Okay, so listen, guys, I know we're getting close to the end here. First of all, thank you so much for showing up for my webcast. Just because you are kind enough to show up, we are offering 50% off of all of my practice questions, as well as all the simulations. So all you got to do is look below here and go to our totalsem.com and type in that code, which I believe is MMLive406, and you get all of our stuff for 50% off. Also, if you're an instructor who's actively teaching classes right now, Audrey O'Shea, we are basically opening up the books for you guys. We're giving stuff away. Now, you have to be a teacher. You have to have active courses. All you have to do is contact Kathy Yale from our offices, and she will basically give it away. In fact, in some unique situations, McGraw-Hill's making this hard, so don't think it's a big candy bar throwaway. But McGraw-Hill is actually giving us some opportunity to give away free ebooks. And very impressive that McGraw-Hill's willing to do that. I think that's only going to be good for probably about 7 or 8 more days. I think that ends on the 30th. Might end on the 25th. But anyway, so if you're an instructor, you really owe it to yourself to contact Kathy Yale. It's Kathy Y at totalsem.com and get fun, free stuff, man. Oh, so sorry. Did I say, okay, Google, what time is it? That just makes me funny. I know Apple has one too, but who cares what that is? Chris D. There was a tech a while ago that told me there's a gaming tweak and server tweak, at least back in the XP days. One tweak opened it up, the other tweak told it where to go. Okay. Chris, I don't know what that means, brother. Would you happen to know I know about 1 million different kinds of tweaks for gaming boxes. I guess I'd have to have a little more detail. Wait a minute. Homer Martinez, Moises Park. Guys, I got the Valley. I got the Valley showing up here. The Valley is the Rio Grande Valley here in Texas. And what an amazing program those guys have down there. Don't have a ton of money, but they compensate through hard work, and they're really, really helping the community. I think it's an amazing, it's not one program, it's just a group of nerds who help the community and get the kids trained and moved on, and salute, man. Muy bueno. Oh, guys, we're running out of time. Okay, folks, I apologize. I think that's all we're going to be able to cover. We're all going to be able to cover today. Listen, tomorrow, I guess we're doing raid, huh? Let's do some raid. Scott Jernigan and I are going to talk about how we could go ahead and do something like that. So tomorrow is going to be raid day. I'm going to see, don't get excited, but I'm going to see if maybe we can even pull in some live demos. So I've got, I'm getting really, really good at the streaming software, like that PowerPoint presentation. I've never done that before. I was very, very excited. So unfortunately, we're running out of time. Guys, please, if you need, here, real quick. If you have questions that you want me to answer, just contact me. Send me an email and write your questions. A lot of the stuff that that we talked about today is people who send me emails. So send me an email. That's my office number, which is probably not good right now. Sorry, I'm not going to put my cell phone number on here because, well, you people are crazy. So when in doubt, just look up DesWeds, DESWEDS, and you will find me. So with that attitude in mind, folks, it is 3 o'clock. We've got to wrap it up. Tomorrow's going to be raid day, which ought to be fun. And, raid won't take a full hour to talk about. So we'll have lots of questions on that and some opinions. And sounds fantastic. So it's every Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And we're going to be doing this for as long as we need to. And I will be here for you. And we'll need what you guys got to do so that you can get yourself A+ certified, or at least hang out and we can talk about technology. So until then, this is your Uncle Mikey saying good night. Good night.